Thanks for joining us. WestJet's 4,400 flight attendants hit the picket line Sunday before Canada's second largest airline agreed to a tentative agreement with them to end the strike that led to hundreds of flight cancellations and thousands of stranded passengers. The union representing the flight attendants says if the deal is ratified, the agreement will provide for a duty period premium that recognizes more of the work cabin crew are required to perform and increases compensation for that work. At issue was flight attendants' lack of pay for time on the ground prior to and after flights are in the air. Flight attendants have 30 days to vote on the tentative deal. Meanwhile, more than 300 WestJet flights were canceled on Sunday, and some flights were still being canceled Monday as the airline ramped up after the one-day strike, despite the carrier reaching a tentative deal early that morning with the union. The airline still canceled another 16 flights today. WestJet has not given a timeline for when it will return to normal operations, just saying it will take time. Meantime, WestJet passengers are expressing frustration over the disruptions from the one-day strike over the long weekend. Changing travel plans is no easy task for anybody, and it easily gets lost in the mix of how to complain, who to complain to, and how to get the compensation you deserve. Dr. Gabor Lakach has been volunteering his time to fight for passenger rights and has filed many successful complaints with the Canadian Transportation Agency. He shares with BCN some tips.
First, you need to send a letter of demand, professionally written, with receipts attached, to WestJet. If you cannot find another contact, I would address it to WestJet's Chief Legal Officer or General Counsel. Give them 30 days to pay up. After 30 days, if WestJet doesn't answer you or gives you a template answer to tell you that they won't pay, the next step is taking WestJet to small claims court.
Lukács advises against complaining to the Canadian transportation industry. He says they have a 97,000 complaint log, and it will take 2 to 3 years before your case is even looked at. More tips and tricks about how to stand up to the big birds in the sky coming up in my interview in the second half of our show. 3 adults and a child are dead after a wrong-way crash on Calgary's Stony Trail Sunday night. Police say a 30-year-old man driving a Mercedes-Benz southbound in the northbound lanes collided head-on with a Subaru driven by a 43-year-old man. Both vehicles caught fire. A third vehicle, an SUV, carrying a 52-year-old woman and 3 youth, then struck the Mercedes. The driver, woman and child in the Mercedes, along with the Subaru driver, were pronounced dead at the scene. The SUV occupants were taken to hospital, one with life-altering but non-life-threatening injuries. Investigators are examining whether impairment and excessive speed were factors in the crash. Officials have expanded an evacuation order related to an out-of-control wildfire burning on the west side of Okanagan Lake. The Central Okanagan Regional District on Monday ordered anyone in the Caesars Landing area around about 25 kilometers north of Kelowna, BC, to leave due to the Quilpitic Creek fire. Evacuees recount fleeing the area as thousands of people were forced to evacuate over the weekend. Winds as high as 115 kilometers per hour helped the flames spread through the drought-parched region.
I watched the fire. I saw it when it started on Friday night. I could see it from my back deck and follow the whole thing, and it was really quite amazing how fast it traveled as a grass fire through Bradley Creek and down in through the reserve. What's really sad here is the Indian band took a real kicking back in 2021, lost several homes and things like that, and this time it's even worse, and it's really sad to see.
This one this year was a little bit quicker. The one in 2021 was a couple days where we had time to really figure out what we're doing. This one the fire started early in the morning, and we're put on evacuation order that night.
And just south of the border, authorities in Washington state have arrested a man on an arson charge in connection with a major wildfire that devastated the eastern part of the state. The fires, which hadn't been contained at all as of Tuesday morning, have destroyed at least 700 buildings and forced about 67,000 people to evacuate. The fires, which began in the Spokane, Washington area, have burned more than 10,000 acres. Aaron Farinacci, a 37-year-old Spokane resident, was arrested on a single charge of first-degree arson related to the Old Trails fire, which sprang up on Saturday alongside two other major fires. The causes of the other fires are under investigation. Also in the Pacific Northwest, investigators are trying to determine what led a 24-year-old man to open fire at an Idaho fast food restaurant. And an attack that left 3 people dead and 7 others wounded before authorities say he killed himself. Police Chief Matthew Hicks said Sunday that investigators are confident the gunman, identified as Chad Williams, acted alone in the shooting Saturday at an In-N-Out Burger in Twin Falls. Hicks says an off-duty state trooper and a civilian fired on the attacker and diverted him from the restaurant. He also says Williams's family is cooperating fully with the investigation. U.S. President Donald Trump's special envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism says the Mark Carney government inaction on targeting anti-Jewish hate is fueling anti-Semitism. Rabbi Kaplan says Canada has strayed from the tolerance and diversity that it was once known for years ago.
My message is to Canada is you need to do better. That I grew up going to school probably a mile away from this location, and we didn't have security to protect the students. We weren't worried about terrorist threats. What we were worried about was, could we go outside for recess in the cold weather? It wasn't that parents were worrying dropping off their students, is will the school be attacked? So I think coming here is almost as a plea to the Canadian government to restore what was years ago, which was a country that was based with religious liberty and freedom. And yet, somewhere along the line, we've lost that.
In other news, the federal government is advancing the process to designate a proposed oil pipeline to the West Coast as a national interest project. Designating a project as being a national interest allows the government to fast-track approvals and skirt some environmental laws. There is a September 18th deadline to submit comments to the national interest designation. The pipeline would carry upwards of 1 million barrels of crude oil from Alberta to a port near Delta, BC, for shipment to international markets. Maxime Bernier was in Lethbridge this week speaking to Albertans during his cross-province tour, promoting his party's support in this October's provincial referendum. The leader of the People's Party of Canada claims his national party is the only one that supports the prospects of a binding referendum on Alberta separating from the rest of Canada, so Albertans could use it for negotiation powers against the federal government. He adds, for example, that Alberta needs to take more control of their equalization, energy, and immigration policies.
Couple of years ago, Albertans voted with 62% saying we need to abolish, we need to change the equalization formula. It's unfair. And I agree with them. We are the only party that will change the formula and cut the equalization payments by half. At the same time, Albertans want to control their immigration. They don't control that. In Quebec, we have a little bit more power over immigration, and I believe that it would be fair for Albertan to have the same. So our position it's to say, we need to have a big reform, a big revolution in Ottawa, and we need to have a radical decentralization. And the only way for the Liberals and the Conservatives to understand that, it's for Albertan to vote to start that process, because that will start the negotiation. And if at the end of this negotiation they have a fair deal, that fair deal will be good for every province. And if they're not able to have a fair deal, but they will have a real referendum on secession later. So there's no risk for Albertans to vote to start the process.
And you can check out our full interview with Bernier on our BCN YouTube page and, of course, our website at bridgecitynews.ca. The president of Lethbridge Firefighters, UAFF Local 237, says firefighters are, quote, deeply disappointed after Lethbridge City Council reaffirmed its opposition to Alberta's proposed funding model for the city's integrated fire and EMS system. In a statement to Bridge City News, Brent Nunweiler said the union disagrees with the city's assessment of the province's review. He says Alberta has launched an independent third-party review of the EMS funding benchmark that will examine operational, workforce, service, and financial factors. Nunweiler argues the review is an opportunity to assess the full value and cost of integrated fire EMS, including the role of firefighter paramedics. He is urging City Council to reconsider its position and participate in the provincial review before making a final decision on the future of the integrated system. Residents in Taber are rejoicing since the main ice surface at the Taber Community Center has officially reopened to the public. The town spent months rebuilding the facility after an explosion caused by a gas leak from a Zamboni this past winter destroyed the facility. Our Landon Hickok has the story.
An explosion pierced through the Taber Community Center back on December 17th of last year, causing substantial damage to the facility's large, small, and curling rinks. After rallying support from within the community and abroad, the town's large ice arena has finally reopened just in time for the upcoming season.
It feels like there's 40 or 50 pounds lifted off my back. This was an aggressive target to meet, and we were able to meet it. Like again, from Service Master, pulling off a couple of small miracles. Really, really exciting day.
It means everything, honestly. Last year was just crazy, going every which direction, so we are super excited to be back in our home ice. I have 4 kids that are registered in Taber Minor Hockey, and we are all excited to be back home.
Besides rebuilding critical elements such as the walls, lighting and electrical, and asbestos abatement, it's also provided the chance for the town to upgrade the rink with new netting, boards, and eventually a new score clock. And it was many thanks to winning $250,000 from Kraft Hockeyville this year.
We're very blessed and very, very fortunate to win that as a result of all our contributions and our supports from our community and area, as well as across the country when it came down to the vote. And of course, you got to have the Canadian vote as well. So we're very, very grateful that we had all that support.
Originally, we were quoted like a $10.8 million repair cost. Most of that would have been insurance covered. 4.3 million of that would not have been insurance covered. To date, I think we're at our second interim proof of loss. And so we'll have spent just shy of, I think, $2 million town money.
With an internal reopening target date for August the 1st, the town commemorated the occasion on Friday with a free skate on the new ice and the revealing of the new town's Wall of Fame, with 2 inaugural inductees being honored. It's also opened right on time for their annual WestJet hockey school.
11 years here in Taber with this particular hockey school. Some 260 kids taking part, so roughly 1,000 people that are here from out of town taking part in the hockey school and the activities attached to that. So huge for our community, great for hockey, great for the town of Taber and the economic benefit as well.
As for the other affected facilities, the curling rink has a hopeful opening date in October, while the future of the small ice arena remains undetermined.
Plans are, potentially at some point to hopefully be able to build a second full ice surface. So there's applications out there and funding options looking at right now and seeing where we're at. So the need is there's no doubt.
For Bridge City News, I'm Landon Hickok.
Thank you, Landon. As Canada's blood supply continues to shrink during the busy summer season, police officers, RCMP members, and Alberta sheriffs in Lethbridge are rolling up their sleeves to encourage others to donate. Canadian Blood Services says blood inventory has dropped by nearly 20% since the beginning of June, raising concerns that patient care could be affected if donations don't increase.
Having the support from all of our law enforcement leaders is really quite impactful for us. They see the need for blood and plasma firsthand throughout the year, and so having them take the time in their busy schedules to make this commitment to give back really makes a difference for us. Currently, the blood supply has dropped by 20%. Every week, we need to make sure we have 18,000 appointments booked and filled by donors across the country. And we have been falling short by anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500 appointments for several weeks now since June 1st. This time last year, we have a greater donor base than what we have, but we're just seeing less appointments booked. So we need people to book today.
We are here for an amazing cause to donate plasma, which is very much needed in this country, and all the law enforcement agency coming in today. We are all winners because we are doing something amazing, and obviously the biggest winners are our citizens who actually need this product for their health.
One of our coworkers actually, he's a recipient of the donor program, so he has been impacted from people's generosity and being able to donate. So it's something that I find a huge kind of positive in being able to give back.
Young nature enthusiasts in Lethbridge are getting the chance to become scientists. The Helen Schuler Nature Center is hosting Bug Quest, a free hands-on program for youth ages 11 to 15 that introduces participants to a Canada-wide insect collection project while exploring the incredible diversity of bugs living in the city's river valley.
We're looking for different insects that you can find here in the river valley. We went through kind of what is an insect, how can you tell that an insect is an insect, where you might find different insects. We'll go back inside, put them under a microscope so we can see just up a little bit more closely. And we named it Bug Quest because right now the Nature Centre is participating in a citizen science initiative that actually goes across Canada. Bug Quest is an initiative from the University of Guelph, and they do DNA analysis, so they're able to tell us at the end of the summer what kinds of insects have been caught in the trap. We know very little about insect species. There's 900,000 insect species approximately that have been documented by scientists, but they think there's over 30 million different kinds of insects found on the planet. There were 26 species that hadn't been found in other parts of Canada, and then there were 6 species that they didn't realize were actually in this area. So the more types of species you have, the healthier the environment is, because there's lots of different habitat for them, lots of different food sources. Many insects are food for other animals too, so they're really, really important part of the food chain.
The Bug Quest event takes place from May 15th till October the 15th, once a month. The next session will be held on Thursday, August 6th from 10 a.m. until noon. Edmonton's summer of soggy, windy weather continues to wreak havoc on major events. The city's Heritage Festival saw reduced hours and fewer visitors this past weekend due to high winds and wet weather. The city's summer of record-setting rainfall has already forced delays and cancellations at the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival and K-Days. The Edmonton Folk Music Festival begins later this week, and the city's famous Fringe Theatre Festival is coming up next week. Ottawa has awarded Telesat LEO a $2.3 billion contract to provide Canada with a satellite communication system for the Canadian Armed Forces operating in the Arctic. The agreement was announced by the Defence Investment Agency and Telesat, marking the largest contract in the Ottawa-based company's nearly 60-year history. The federal government says the military currently has limited satellite communications in the Arctic region, signing the strategic partnership with Telesat and MDA Space last year. The new low-orbit network is expected to begin providing communication services to the Canadian troops in early 2028. Canadians will now have the ability to earn Aeroplan points while paying off their mortgages. Canadian payments company CheckC launched in 2023 and allows users to earn rewards points by using a credit card to pay rent, utilities, or property taxes. This new program, announced on Tuesday, will allow users to complete their monthly mortgage payments straight from their bank accounts and will be able to earn 1 Aeroplan point per dollar spent in the process towards redeeming flight rewards with Air Canada. But it will charge a 1.75% fee for each payment. The company says this acts as Canada's first mortgage rewards program and will virtually work with any mortgage lender in the country. Chocolate lovers, beware. Cadbury Dairy Milk Oreo chocolate bars have been recalled over undeclared pistachios. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency says there have been reported allergic reactions associated with the consumption of the product. Now a food safety investigation is underway as recalled products are pulled from store shelves. Anyone who bought the chocolate bars is being advised to either throw them in the garbage or return them to the store for full refund. That's too bad. Those look good. And now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX is up 575 to 35,801. The Dow was up 907 to 54,085. The S&P 500 was up 136 to 7,736, and the Nasdaq was up 671 to 26,584. West Texas Intermediate Oil was down 517 to 75.16 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 9 cents to 268 US. Gold was up 22.31 to 40.7744 US an ounce, and silver was up 182 to 59.51 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $7.89 per bushel. Barley is at $6.07. Canola is at $17.28, and corn is at $7.65 per bushel. Live cattle were up 85 cents to $231.95. Feeder cattle were up $3.37 to $351.20. Lean hogs are up 32 cents to $97.85, and the Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours and currently sits at 71.10 US.
Recapping one of today's top stories, BC wildfire evacuees are describing flames that moved so quickly they had just minutes to escape. A fire near Vernon, BC started late Friday and was fanned by winds gusting up to 115 kilometers per hour. The chief of the Okanagan Indian Band says about 230 homes have been destroyed in and around his community. Emergency Manager Minister Kelly Green says about 8,000 people have been forced from their homes by about 36 evacuation orders because of about 120 wildfires across the province. As WestJet and its passengers reposition themselves to return to normal air travel, Air Passenger Rights President Gabor Lukács says that travelers have a right to transportation and WestJet must fulfill its customer service obligation. Catch him in my interview coming up next. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our content and poll questions.